Welcome to the Relationship Rehab Podcast. I'm Sammy, a certified breakup and relationship coach, attachment specialist, former love addict, and spiritual junkie. This podcast is for you, the hopeless romantic who loves to love, and a safe space for us to explore and heal our attachment trauma, broken hearts, and love addictions. Together, we are on a mission to become the love of our own lives so we can have successful, healthy, secure relationships with others. So if you're ready to create a life and love beyond your wildest desires, you're in the right place. Your journey towards becoming more secure in love and life starts now. Hello, my love, and welcome back to the Relationship Rehab Podcast. I am Sammy, if you are new here, and today we are covering one of the most common questions that I get asked of all time, and that is, why do avoidants pull away when things get serious? Now, a lot of us are in relationship with or seem to be dating avoidants. So there always seems to be questions and curiosity popping up about the avoidant attachment. So I'm tackling this question today, along with how to know if you're dating an avoidant. So I'm going to give you some signs to look out for. We're going to talk about some common misconceptions that a lot of us have about avoidance as well. Give you 3 reasons why they are pulling away and what to do and say when this happens. So let's dive into this, guys. Now, I wanted to preface something right off the bat because a lot of us listening to this episode will be dating an avoidant. And a lot of us go into the dating realm being quite wary of not attracting avoidance or anxious or fearful avoidant. And as much as understanding attachment styles and applying it in this way can support us to really explore ourselves and others and how we relate to one another, I think it's important to note not to put people in boxes and attach labels to them, and just come back to the reality of the situation, that we are all human beings. We are all dealing with our shit. Some of us are healing, some of us are not, and we get to decide who we are in relationship to that. But it can just be a useful tool to understand how someone is in relationship. So as you're listening to all of this, I want you to take this information as just that, information to be used for exploration, curiosity, inquiry into yourself and into others, and just have those discussions. So a lot of us think that we may be dating an avoidant, and it might be rightly so, or we might be dating with someone who has avoidant tendencies. There is a spectrum as well that we need to identify with, and it's not black and white. You're either an avoidant or you're not. You're either anxious or you're not. A lot of us are swinging from all the different attachment styles depending on who we're dating, the time of our life, our age. Like, there's all different factors that we need to take into account. So when I say avoidant attachment, we can also just refer to the emotional availability and maturity of the individual as well. So with that being said, I put together 10 signs to look out for that may give you an indicator that you are dating someone with an avoidant attachment style. So the first one is that they need a lot of space. So if they are saying to you that they can only see you once or twice a week, and that's the whole capacity that they have, that they don't really want to see you on a daily basis, they don't have the capacity to be texting too much throughout the day, and contact and communication is quite minimal, that is a big sign that they are avoidant. The second one is that they have some sort of fear of commitment or emotional intimacy. So if they are saying things like, yeah, I don't really commit to others, I've never had any long-term serious relationships, I'm not really one for getting touchy-feely or affectionate or intimate in this way, this might be an indicator that that fear is present for them. The third one, something quite important to acknowledge and get curious about, is that they can be quite dismissive of your feelings and minimize your experiences as well as their own. If you are witnessing this person not being able to give themselves the space to feel their emotions and they dismiss themselves and they dismiss their experience. Maybe they say things like, oh my God, I'm such an idiot. It's weak to cry. Like they talk badly about emotions in general. Maybe you're also receiving that type of treatment for them as well. When you get emotional, they get uncomfortable and they tend to want to back away. I remember dating a guy once when I had an accident and I got really emotional. Of course, I had a motorbike accident. I was okay, but I was shaken up and I was crying and I was looking to him to console me in that moment because I called him, he came. And I noticed it made him feel really uncomfortable to see me in this space of vulnerability and emotion, like heavy emotion. And I didn't hear from him for the next couple of days because I was reaching out and I was like, can you help me with my dressing of my wounds? Can you get me these supplies? And, I was seriously dating this guy. So it was very appropriate to request for some support, but he was not there. He had completely disappeared for these couple of days after the accident. So this was a big indicator. I want to use the word red flag very lightly, but it kind of was that this person had a more avoidant attachment style. The fourth one is that they get the ick when people prioritize their relationships. A lot of my avoidant clients say this to me, that they just don't understand, or they get really turned off when they hear their friends or just people they know talking about that they have to go and be with their partner, or oh, I have to go home because my partner is waiting for me or is doing this or is doing that, and they prioritizing that. It's like, oh, what's wrong with you? Like, you were having such a good time with us. Why can you not stay? You have to go because your partner says so. And they kind of get repelled by hearing and witnessing stories and interactions between people where they prioritize one another. The fifth one is a big one. They don't like drama in a relationship. You see this in a lot of the dating reality shows where the more avoidantly attached person will say things like, I don't want no drama. I'm not about it. Like, this person is being too dramatic, too much of this, too much of that. I just want peace and harmony and no drama in my relationships. And that's a big thing for the avoidance, is they do look for that. They want that, even though they don't subconsciously attract it, but they prioritize it. And it's because they avoid conflict. And I'll get into why that is, but just a sign if they say something about not liking or wanting drama in a relationship. Big sign. Number 6 is they value having firm, solid boundaries. They may make this very clear to you early on that their boundaries are important and they expect their boundaries to be respected. And it's important to know, guys, that people can use boundaries as well for manipulation. So it's not that we now have to be in this space to completely respect everyone's boundaries. They may be using it as a way to manipulate and control you. Like, you have to respect my boundary for space. If you don't, then that means that you're not a good person, you're not the right person for me. And we have to really have that sense of self and assurance within ourselves of be like, I don't know about this. Is this a healthy boundary? Is this an unhealthy boundary? And the more work that we do on our own boundaries, we will be able to differentiate between the two and make a executive decision for ourselves, like have that autonomy to understand and realize if someone is manipulating us with their boundaries or if they are actually healthy boundaries that we can work with. So they will make it clear that their boundaries are important, or they will express in some way, maybe that you will just show up to their house and they're like, whoa, this is not okay. This is my space. I don't know about this. I didn't ask you to come. We didn't have this discussion or conversation. I'm not about it. This is breaking my boundaries. And they really don't do well when their boundaries are being broken, because it gives them that sense of unsafety. So they really value that. Number seven is they can be overly critical and focus on flaws with themselves and with others as well. I have experienced this many times with avoidance when I witness them being very hard on themselves, very critical, perfectionists. They are striving for like perfectionism, ultimate achievement, and now they almost project that onto you as well, that they are pushing you to work harder, to do better. They're pointing out flaws, like the smallest of things. Like an avoidant that I was dating would pick out the things that I was wearing. If he didn't like it, he would ask me to change those things that I was wearing, or the bag that I had, or the color lipstick that I was wearing. He was very, very picky. And I noticed that he was doing the same to himself as well. And this is because they strive for that perfectionism, and it all comes back to that sense of safety. Sign number eight is they go along with things for an easy life. A lot of people may recognize this as people who kind of get called, yeah, they just want an easy life, or they are a doormat in some way, and they'll just say yes dear, no dear, just for that easy life. But inside, they feel really trapped and powerless. My avoidant client gave me an insight into how this unfolds for him. So his girlfriend would ask him to go places and do things, and he would say yes because he just didn't want to fight with her. He didn't want to cause an argument. He couldn't be bothered for it. So instead, he said yes, and he went along with everything that she wanted him to do. But inside, he was feeling very suffocated and trapped and powerless. And because they can't communicate this, they will then stay quiet and as a result start to distance themselves because they don't know how to say it and express it to them, because they can't find the words or the feelings to be able to do that with you. And the ninth sign is that they find it difficult to depend and rely on others. They may say things like, I can do this myself. I don't need you. I don't need you to take care of me. I can take care of me. Or they might start to practice asking you for their needs or to support them in some way. And then they will feel very uncomfortable. And then they're like, oh, I could have done this better myself. Oh, I shouldn't have bothered asking. I may as well just do this again. Or they'll do it again. Like my avoidant partner asked me to help him with a project once, and I spent time with him doing this, and then I caught him the next day completely redoing it all over again from scratch. So it's almost like they have this belief and statement within themselves that they can only rely and depend on themselves, because it's pointless asking others, because either they will believe that they are incapable, they cannot meet the standard that they have set for themselves, even though that is, like I said, a story that they are holding on to, or they are afraid. They're afraid to ask and receive because it was unsafe to do so in their childhood. And then the last one is, which is an interesting one, they might idealize past relationships. Another interesting sign that I noticed in avoidant partner that I had was he spoke really well about an ex that he had years and years and years ago. And at first I was like, okay, this is a good sign. This is a green flag that they're not bitching and bad mouthing their exes, because that's also something for us to be aware of. He's actually speaking well of her and saying lovely things. But it got to a point where I knew a lot about this person. He talked about her a lot, to the point of idealization. And we had to have that difficult conversation of like, do you still have feelings for this person? And I was met with, no, don't be so ridiculous. Of course not. But the way that he was talking about her was telling me something different. And he called her the one that got away as well, which gave me a massive indicator that he was idolizing this past relationship. And what's really going on there is this relationship may or may not be what they are describing, but in their mind, they're idealizing this phantom ex of theirs, even though hypothetically, let's say this ex returns back to their life, it may not be the same vision that they have. They have put this vision on the pedestal, not so much the person. And that's what keeps them in this space of safety and security, because they know that this person has gone, that this person is not reachable. So they can be in that space of idealization because this person's not coming back anytime soon. So these are some things just to be curious about if you are dating someone you think might be more on the avoidant side. If they are ticking some of these boxes and signs that I've just outlined, then maybe it is time to start to think about whether you have an avoidant on your hands. Now, I'm not going to go too much into why avoidance the way that they are, because that's not the bread and butter of this episode. But if you are interested, I do have a whole podcast episode dedicated to the avoidant attachment style, and it's also called the wind archetype. It's one of the earlier podcast episodes that I have done. If you have a look at that, then that will give you a deeper insight into the avoidant attachment style. But in a nutshell, avoidant attachment is manifested from childhood. Of course, they can also shape and change within our adult experience as well. But primarily, the core programming comes from our childhood and early relationship experiences. Now, what an avoidant child will go through is they will express their needs that all children have for love, attention, and affection. And they may have grown up in a household where emotions were not welcome. They were punished in some way. They were rejected if they showed emotions. They were humiliated. They were said that, big boys don't cry or big girls don't cry. And emotions were not welcome. And they may have had parents or caregivers that also didn't display emotional capacity. They were not emotionally available in that way. Silent treatment and stonewalling might have been a common strategy and tactic used between parents and caregivers, and even with their children. The children may have been ignored if they asked to get their needs met in some way, or they cried out and they were not met with reciprocation and love and availability. So as a result, the avoidant child learns that they will not get their needs met by these people. So they can only depend on themselves. They cannot trust. They cannot trust people to meet their needs. So there's no point in showing emotions. In fact, emotions are dangerous. Emotions are not safe because they result in abandonment, rejection. I feel like a terrible person. I feel like a defective person if I show any type of emotion. And intimacy itself is also unsafe, because if I get too close, then this person will eventually leave me. They also have this underlying fear of abandonment that's wrapped in this fear of intimacy. And it's because it's been driven by not being able to trust that this person is actually going to meet their needs. This is all on a subconscious level. And this is why we see a lot of avoidance being by themselves. They're lone wolves. They depend on themselves. They prefer to be alone. And connection, intimacy, emotional vulnerability are all super scary things. Like I said, if you want to dive more into the attachment style itself, check out that podcast episode. But I also just wanted to break down the most common misconception about avoidance in this episode as well, because I see a lot in my social media audiences and also in my Facebook community and in my clients. The avoidants are like these bad people. They should not date. They should not be in relationships because they are abusive, manipulative, and all the, people have very bad experiences with avoidance. And I am not dismissing that at all. These experiences are very valid. I have also been through them myself. With an unhealed, unconscious avoidant, relationships can be abusive and manipulative. But on the flip side, I just want us to remember that these are also human beings. They are also dealing with a lot of wounding and attachment issues and trauma. Now, this is not your responsibility, but we can, as human beings, practice some level of compassion while deciding to not be in relationship with these types of people. We can decide if we want to be that type of person where we are bad mouthing and being deeply traumatized by these people. We get to decide and have that choice. Do we want to be a victim of our experiences, or do we want to be empowered by them and lead with compassion over bitterness? So I'm just putting that out there for you to think about and decide for yourself as to what type of person you want to become. But like I said, at the end of the day, avoidants are also human beings, and we often think that they don't want relationships or they don't want to be loved by others, but this is far from the truth. They really do want intimacy. They crave it. They want relationships. They want to feel love and attention, but it is so scary for them. It's very scary. I have a lot of avoidants that I work with as clients who are in relationships. They are willing to do the work on themselves. It is possible. Avoidants can make those changes for themselves. That's important to recognize as well. Avoidants will only change for themselves. They may be motivated by a partner or a relationship, but if we then take that as an invitation to start pressuring them or giving them an ultimatum and forcing them to change in some way, threatening them, that's the word I wanted to find, to change, then it will not happen. It needs to be internal change because avoidants are very focused and driven by personal growth as opposed to relationship growth. So if they feel like they will become a better person and other areas of their lives will manifest in a better way because of doing the inner healing work on their avoidant attachment style, they're more likely to make those changes. So if they do recognize these unhealthy traits within themselves and they are willing to work on them, and they're willing, this is the key word here, willingness. If they are willing to expand their capacity for love and intimacy, if they are willing to face their fear of commitment, if they are willing to put in the work on themselves in the relationship, this is a really great sign. If they are not, if they are saying to you things like, I don't think there's anything wrong, not that anything's wrong, but I don't see like anything needs to be looked at in my behavior. I think I'm fine. I think you're the problem, actually. If you just calm this down, if you just change that, then we will be fine. And even if you're saying that, right, something to get curious about. Again, if someone says, if only you change this about yourself, then we'll be okay. This is an indicator that this person is not taking accountability or responsibility for their role in the relationship. It's a two-person game. It's not just one-sided. We need to look at ourselves and we need to support our partner to look at themselves as well. So if we're calling each other out on each other's shit, we need to be able to give ourselves the same grace to call ourselves out on our own shit and to be able to listen to that person as they're doing that as well. I'm interrupting this episode to ask you a question. Have you taken our relationship archetype quiz yet? If you haven't and you want to know more about your attachment style, this is the quiz for you. All you have to do is answer 10 simple questions and that will take you to your result to find out what archetype you are, whether you're the mountain, the wind, the sun, or the ocean. So to get started for free, click the link in the show notes below and don't forget to let me know what archetype you are as well. All right, let's get back to the episode. So to summarize the avoidant attachment style then before we get into why they are pulling away, somewhere along the way they have learned that their needs are not going to get met by their caregivers, so they can only rely and depend on themselves. And if they open up that floodgate to their emotions, this is dangerous. So their nervous system is putting them in a state of shutdown. So they don't do that because it is so scary. They're going to get rejected. They're going to get seen as weak or powerless, and they cannot put themselves in that space due to the early experiences they may have had in their past. They've learned that people are better off kept at a distance, so they can't hurt you and you can't hurt them. So they may prioritize more short-term, casual dating relationships because it feels safer. And they will maybe start to withdraw. This is what the whole episode is about. When things get a bit serious and a bit more intimate, they will start to withdraw, isolate, and even ghost their romantic interests and partners because now the relationship is entering into dangerous territory. And the last sign that I mentioned, idealizing previous relationships or periods of your life when you were single. You might notice that as well. This is a defense mechanism in order to avoid current relational issues. or to distract themselves away from what is going on in the present. So the avoidant person very much lives in their mind and not in their body because it's felt unsafe. To be able to feel emotions is a sign of weakness. So I need to rationalize and intellectualize everything because it's safer. So you might notice as well with avoidance that they tend to bond and relate very well to intellectual stimuli rather than emotional stimuli. So they will be able to relate and bond over things that they are interested in, topics like science or computers, rather than talking about feelings. All right, let's get into why they are pulling away when things are getting serious. So, you may have recognized this is happening to you if you are having an experience right now with a quote unquote an avoidantly attached individual. So it could be something like my experience where something significant has happened, like an accident or grief, something that has brought your emotions up to the surface. Maybe it's your first fight, like conflict in some way where emotions are present. And now they are pulling away because they feel like this is entering into dangerous territory. They're uncomfortable with emotions and they're feeling a little scared with how to deal with it. Maybe they're pulling away because you're trying to have a conversation with them about what the relationship is. You've been dating for a while and you don't want to get into a situationship. You've been there, done that, and you want to have an open conversation about what your intentions are with each other. All of a sudden, you've noticed text messages are getting more inconsistent and more shorter. And yeah, this is ringing the alarm bells and setting off the anxiety within yourself as well. And if you are feeling anxious, which I'm sure you are, if you are feeling like this person is pulling away from you and going distant, and maybe you're having thoughts like, what did I do wrong? What did I say? What can I do and say to get them back? I want you to just take a pause. And there are plenty of other episodes to explore as well in order to manage this anxiety. So you're here to understand why they're pulling away, but I highly encourage you as well after this episode to go into the ones that I have about managing anxiety and how to do that for yourself so you don't fall into this trap of abandoning your needs and yourself in order to win this person back and be the person that they want you to be so they can feel quote unquote safe in a relationship. At the end of the day, it is two people coming together in order to make it work. It's not about one person abandoning themselves so the other one can just feel as safe as possible without being challenged. So, we've already touched upon a lot of the reasons why they may be pulling away, and there are countless reasons why, but I've condensed them into three different reasons, and they incorporate some other smaller micro ones as well. So the first one is that they really value their space and their independence. They may have been single for a while or have not had anything serious or committed, and this is what makes them feel safe because of their fear of intimacy, and they can't allow people to get too close. So they're very protective over their space, whether it's physical space, whether it's emotional space that they're not able to give you your emotional needs of reassurance and connection because they don't have it to give. They haven't really put in the work and practice how to be a safe space for someone else because they have been so focused on themselves and knowing that they can only depend on themselves. So they're looking at their maybe more anxiously attached partner and wondering why this person cannot depend on themselves just like they can. They don't understand why you're coming to me with all your needs and emotions. Why can you not deal with it yourself? And it's because they are being in relationship with themselves in that way as well. And being vulnerable, being emotionally vulnerable, physically vulnerable might be really uncomfortable for them because it all comes down to this risk of being hurt, rejected, being seen as a bad person, or being powerless in some way. This is another great fear of the avoidant. They don't want to feel trapped or suffocated in a relationship. So, by obtaining and maintaining a sense of independence, even within the relationship, makes them feel safe. So, it's important to notice that they are keeping you at arm's length as a way of protecting themselves. And they're not protecting themselves from you, they're protecting themselves from even hurting you. or protecting themselves from being too overwhelmed in this way. So I want you to recognize that before we fall into that trap of we're too much for this person, too dramatic, it may be that they just don't have the capacity for it. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what to do if they are requesting space, whether it's directly requesting with expressing or if it's indirectly expressing by pulling away. So the second reason why it's this fear of intimacy and connection. It's been so unsafe for them and they get overwhelmed. They get overwhelmed when we come to them with our full range of emotions, and they'll start to feel suffocated because they don't know what to do. They can maybe fixers, they're perfectionists, and if they don't have an answer, a rational answer to be able to make it better, they will then see themselves as an unequipped, inadequate as a partner and pull away for that reason. They do it to regain a sense of control over the situation as well. So if they are met with a partner who is trying to express, maybe not in the best way possible, maybe they're feeling attacked. That's a big thing with avoidance as well. When they're feeling attacked, they will stand up and walk away. They will withdraw from that conversation because on a nervous system level, they are going into a space of shutting down. They cannot be able to give you the space to express. They need to walk away. And now we can decide to allow them to do that and let them calm down, come back to themselves, and then come back to you and have that conversation. But this is what they do to protect themselves because they couldn't depend on their caregivers to meet their needs. So they were programmed to value this space, to fear intimacy and connection. They're not used to it. It doesn't feel familiar. And they may even have had a very overly emotional parent who use their emotions and their primary caregiver role as a way to control and manipulate them in childhood. That might be the cause of this fear. And now they felt very entrapped and suffocated by this particular parent. And they have made an active choice to no longer fall into that dynamic with anyone else. And the third reason why they may be pulling away is that they're struggling to identify and express their emotions. So there might be something happening where they may be feeling some type of way that can instill some emotion like anger or sadness or even love. And when they feel this coming up, because they have been so disconnected and disassociated from themselves and their body and their emotions, and all of a sudden they're feeling, whoo, this is too much, and they shut it down again. So this is when we're in a dynamic with an avoidant, we might notice that, oh, one moment they're all in, they're loving on us, they're giving us everything, they're being the person that we're needing, we're wanting, we're desiring, everything is great. And then the next day it's completely different. It's like hot and cold. And this is because they on one hand want to be that person, and then they come away and they assess what they just did, their behavior. Oh my gosh, I'm allowing myself to be vulnerable here for attack, for hurt, for rejection. This is not okay. I need to shut myself down again. I need to put up my barriers and my boundaries so this person can't hurt me. So this is when we start to have these hot and cold experiences with the avoidance as well, because they are having a lot of difficulty navigating their own emotional world. It goes back to those childhood experiences. Maybe they were judged, criticized, humiliated, called weak for having feelings and emotions, for crying, for being angry. So as a survival mechanism, they've locked them away. And now you're here and you're asking them to be more emotionally expressive. They don't know how to unlock that safe that they have poured their emotions in. They need support being able to unlock that, whether it be in therapy, in coaching, or even with yourself or another who can really give them that safe space to start to unlock that really dangerous place and get to know themselves on a body level again, in a nervous system way, start to understand, identify, and regulate their emotions in a healthy way so they can have the capacity to emotionally express and be emotionally vulnerable and express their feelings as well. So now we understand why they may be pulling away and what's happening for them internally. I want to turn the focus back on you and support you to make a decision and choices for yourself on what you want to do. If you are in relationship with this individual that is displaying avoidant tendencies, pulling away, shutting down, it can be very distressing. Let me just say that I have been there. Very distressing, very dysregulating. Anxiety is through the roof. Everything is like you're very activated also in this dynamic. When this person's pulling away, we have the tendency to want to lean in and just want them back in some way, whether we obsessively call them, text them, want to get some sort of connection with them. When they lean out, we lean in. And this is what causes this anxious avoidant dance and dynamic that we tend to circulate and go in roundabouts with when we don't know how to break these patterns. So here is some information on what you can do when they are requesting space and pulling away from you and going distant. So sometimes it's not even about needing the space, it's about how they're feeling in your presence. And when it comes to being in relationship with other people, let me ask you this question. How do you want to feel with your partner? Have you ever asked yourself that? Have you ever asked your partner that, or the person that you're dating? How do you want to feel when you're in relationship with another? And it typically boils down to two things, and that is safety and freedom. Now, for those of us who have a more anxious attachment style, we dominantly need to feel safe in a relationship. We prioritize that over feeling free. We want to have this emotional security first and foremost. But for those with an avoidant attachment, it's usually the other way around. They prioritize a sense of freedom and autonomy in order to feel safe. So with the anxious, we need to feel safe in order to feel free. With the avoidant, they need to feel free in order to feel safe. So what they may be really saying is, I need you to give me the space to have my emotional freedom and physical freedom so I can feel safe with you. But you will also be saying, give me the safety and security within the relationship so I can feel free and be able to give you the space. And this is where we come into some difficulties with the more anxious and avoidant individuals. So when this happens, you pretty much have two choices. The first one is to just say, you know what, I don't think this is going to work out for me. I feel like I need a partner that is going to be more emotionally available, is going to be able to give me the needs of reassurance and connection and intimacy and vulnerability. And you can also make an assessment whether this person is working towards that or if they're completely not available for working on any of those pretty essential skills really for a secure relationship. And you're having to make that decision that you're just not accepting this anymore, that you have tried to be this person. You may have recognized that you have abandoned yourself in the process as well and your own needs in order to make that person feel super safe in the relationship. And now you're feeling a bit resentful. You're like, hang on a minute, but what about me? And if you're recognizing this person is not willing to meet you halfway, then maybe a decision needs to be made, because at the end of the day, a relationship it's a two-person game. If you think about it like volleyball, when we have two people on either side of the net, you need to be hitting the ball back and forth. You need to be playing with each other. You need to be meeting each other in this relationship to be able to move forward. If it's just one of you in the game and you're so focused on meeting all their needs and neglecting your own and suppressing your own emotions in order for them to feel safe and free, you're playing by yourself. This person is just reaping all the benefits and you're exhausting yourself by hitting that ball back and forth by yourself. So make that assessment. Are they in this relationship, or are they just benefiting from being in this relationship without giving anything in return? Your other choice could be that, okay, maybe I'm making an assessment that this person is trying their best. They're doing some level of work on themselves. They are expressing they need a little bit of space I feel safe with this person. I feel safe giving some space. So as we allow our partner to give space, because it's healthy, right? It's healthy for us to have space sometimes, especially if we're going through something difficult. We've been triggered in some way. We've had a heavy conversation. We need to replenish. We need to fill our own cup back up. Now, avoidants are very good at that. As anxiously attached individuals, not so much. So, if we are able to provide ourselves with that inner source of safety, and it is within you, and seeking it from within yourself as opposed to from others, being able to pull back on those behaviors of clinginess and needing constant reassurance and testing their love, but knowing that you have the tools and resources within yourself to regulate any anxiety, any emotions, and to feel safe giving that space, then that is a beautiful dynamic to be in, right? And maybe that's something that you're choosing to work towards, being able to meet your own needs, being able to understand your abandonment wounds of why this feels so intense for you. And you're recognizing that your partner is still in the game. They're still in the game. They're just taking some space. Maybe you set a boundary, meaning, okay, yes, take the space, but in order for me to feel safe for you to take the space, this is what I'm going to need from you. And that is maybe just check in with me this evening. It doesn't need to be a phone call. Maybe it could be a text message. This is what will make me feel safe so I can give you the space so you can feel free within this relationship. So it's all about that balance of safety and freedom. So I'm going to finish off this episode with another question that was asked of me in regards to when an avoidant pulls away, and is, what do we say? What do we say when this happens? And what do we do? Do we wait it out? Do we let them go? And I get it. Can be a very activated space where we don't really know what to do for the best. So when this avoidant individual is shutting down, is stonewalling you, is pushing you away, even threatening to break up with you, just know it's because they're protecting themselves. Their beliefs are activated, their nervous system is dysregulated, and everything is happening or shutting down in some way. So the more you push, the more you lean in, the more you threaten, the more you chase and beg, the worse it will be for them and you. This person needs space in order to come back into a regulated space. So let them be, and do some sort of work for yourself in order to regulate yourself as well, so you can make an executive rational decision from your rational brain rather than your emotional brain. Because what we don't want to happen is making a decision based off an emotion, breaking up with them, or saying something that you might later regret. So take the space. Space is healthy. It may be very uncomfortable for you, but the more tools, regulation tools, and strategies you have, the safer it will feel. So in that moment where they're pulling away, they may be having beliefs that they're a bad person, or they're defective, or this is unsafe, and I need to pull away in some way. And by pushing you away, they're confirming to themselves that they're probably better off alone. So when they do this, the main thing they're looking for is validation. Now, when I say this, I mean validating their feelings and their perspective, not the behavior. They want to feel seen, heard, and understood. They've never had this before in their childhood. So we can validate, okay, it's, your feelings are valid. Your need for space is valued. However, the way you're going about it, by not responding to my messages or ghosting me completely, that's not acceptable. The behavior itself is not acceptable. So we're making it known to them that you as an individual is still valid. You're okay. You're safe with me. But your behavior, that's what's bad here. You're not the bad person. The behavior is bad. So at the end of the day, my love, whether you wait it out or you work with them on this, or you let them go, is your choice. These are your options. But what I will say, some things to consider, and I'm going to give you some questions as well for you to consider. If you're waiting it out and you're in pain, you're suffering, that's not good or healthy. If you're putting your own needs and emotions aside for another individual, you are in a complete process of self-abandonment. So, first of all, that is unhealthy and not good for you, something to be aware of. And then if you choose to work with them or let them go, here are some things to consider. So, first of all, ask yourself, do you have the space to work through this with an avoidant partner while still holding space and respecting yourself in the process? Do you feel like you can be that person? Because I will say one thing for sure. When I was dealing with an anxious attachment style, I could not be in relationship with avoidance. In the end, I set a firm, non-negotiable boundary with myself that I will not date avoidance because I was not yet in a space where I could handle it. I couldn't. It was too triggering. It was too activating. I couldn't focus. I couldn't do anything. I didn't even like myself when I was dating an avoidant. It was just very unhealthy for both of us and super toxic. So for me, it was a firm no. I cannot. I cannot work through anything with someone who is avoidant while respecting myself in the process. I didn't know how to do that. I needed to learn how to do that through therapy, coaching, practicing the skills and having the knowledge and turning it into practice. And then little by little, I still have a very firm boundary on not dating unhealed, unconscious avoidance. But if I recognize that they are taking responsibility for themselves and they are working on their emotional availability and they are showing me how they are doing that, I will maybe make an exception, because I know now that I have worked my way up to an earned secure attachment, and I do have the space for someone to take space and to take their time being vulnerable and express themselves emotionally. But I know the type of relationship that is going to make me thrive is with a partner who can express emotionally, who can take accountability and works with me as a team. It's not me against you, it's me and you against the problem. These are the things that I'm looking for, regardless of the attachment style. So I'll encourage you to do the same. What are those non-negotiable traits that you are looking for in a partner? Because these unhealthy patterns of stonewalling and breakup threats, they will, my love, they will keep you in a state of exhaustion. And other areas of your life will start to fall apart because relationships reflect our lives. They impact our lives. They really do. So we really need to take some careful consideration in regard to the partner that we're choosing, because this is going to impact us in every other area of our life. Something else to consider: how long has this been going on? Is it a regular occurrence that feels like you're going round and round in circles and nothing is ever getting solved? You're just banging your head against a brick wall? Is it becoming unhealthy and toxic? Is this the first time or even the second time that this is happening and you feel like there is still some space for communication and improvement? Maybe you've done all that you can, especially if you're recognizing that you are on a merry-go-round right now and it's time to walk away. Knowing the time to walk away, knowing when you have done all that you can with all that you have. I'm not saying that we all have our work to do. We all have things that we can look at and improve on. But maybe we need to be able to take space from this person to do that, because we cannot do that when we are just constantly and consistently activated and in a state of anxiety. How can we when we are living out of that space? Now, I know this is easier said than done, especially when we are dealing with the fear of abandonment and unworthiness. So our subconscious may trick us into thinking that it's better to stay with this person than better than being alone, because we don't actively believe that there's anyone else out there. These are all clues and signs of what's going on within us for us to look at, for us to take to a coach or a therapist and unpack and start to realize that everything that we're looking for outside of ourselves can be sourced within. That the fear of abandonment is an illusion that we have been programmed with from our childhood, just as the avoidant has been programmed with the fear of intimacy. So by bringing up these subconscious fears and beliefs in a very safe space of healing, we can start to unpack and reform them and reprogram them into a state of security. So we can now actively choose healthier partners, more secure partners, because we are becoming more secure and healthier within ourselves. Now, if you choose to work with them on this, I'm going to give you a little script of what you can say. Please don't copy this word for word because it's not going to sound authentic, but it's going to cover 4 points for you to think about if you are going to communicate to a more avoidantly attached individual that this is not acceptable. So you can say something like this. I can see that you're pushing me away right now. I want to respect the time and space you need to process what you're experiencing, but at the same time, if you continue to push me away, I won't be able to fully understand what you're going through and resolve it with you. So I would love to be able to hear you out at a time that's comfortable for you when you're ready and resolve it with you and understand your needs more. I'm willing to do this for you and give you the space you need, but I'd love for you to do the same for me. And this is what I'm needing. Express your need. So we can solve this together from a mature, empowering place as a team, as a couple. We're not against each other here. Let's do this together. Using that connective language will create safety in that relationship. So play with it, use your own words and your own tone, but make sure you have these 4 elements in whatever you're communicating. And the first one is to call it out. Make them aware that they are doing this. And this is giving them a sense of, I see you. I see what you're doing. I see what's going on for you. You're pushing me away. I understand why. We've had this conversation before. I want your respect. You want to understand and offer solutions and respect their needs. So this is giving them a space, a sign of, I am here for you. I am here for you. I want to understand you. The third one is at a time when you are comfortable. And this is validating and recognizing and respecting their need to feel comfortable and safe in communicating. You need time, and I respect that. And the fourth one is, I want to be heard too. I deserve to have my needs met too. I'm not neglecting myself no longer, but we are in this together as a team. If you cannot meet me halfway, if you cannot have a discussion about this, then I need to pull back, make an assessment as to whether this relationship is truly fulfilling me and making me thrive to the best possible version that I can be of myself. And that's what it all comes down to, guys. When we are in relationship with people, it is not supposed to be a state of survival. It is supposed to be a state of thriving. This person is supposed to elevate us into a state of thriving, not surviving. If that's the only thing you take away from this episode, then that is massive in and of itself. Asking yourself, being with this person, am I being the best version of myself? Being with this person, do I feel safe? Am I in a state of survival or am I thriving? And relationships do not come without its complexities and challenges and issues, but are you working through them together? Or is there one individual pushing and changing and sacrificing and doing all the things in order for the other person to feel safe? So there's some food for thought there, my loves, and some insight as to why this may be happening right now with the avoidantly individual, why they're pulling away, and what you can do about it. So I hope this has been really helpful in understanding and supporting you to make those decisions and choices for yourself from a space of secure attachment, being spiritually and utterly secure within yourself and having that safe space for yourself as well. If you have any questions or you want to talk through anything more personal or specific with me, always feel free to reach out in the DMs on my Instagram. And yeah, let me know how this episode has been for you. Share it with someone who may need to hear it. And as always, I appreciate you, love you for showing up for yourself, doing the work, being here with me, navigating this journey of healing and growing in our attachment styles. And I will see you for another powerful, beautiful episode next week. Bye, my loves. Thank you so much for joining me on the Relationship Rehab podcast. I hope that this episode has supported you in healing, growing, and evolving out of insecure attachment and unhealthy relationship patterns and into safe, authentic love with yourself and others. If you enjoyed the episode, it would mean the absolute world to me if you would just take a second to rate and review this podcast. Every rating and review from you guys counts, as it really helps this podcast to grow so it can reach more people who need to hear this content. And don't forget to connect with me on social media. Take a screenshot of this podcast episode, share it on your IG stories, and tag me at the.relationship.rehab with your biggest takeaway from the episode. I really do love reading them. See you back here next week for another episode on the Relationship Rehab podcast.